There's a common cinematic trope in which a hero discovers their reality is an illusion maintained by a shadowy authority. In the 70s, Zardoz showed us a decadent elite manipulating primitives through a bizarre religious icon, while Logan's Run portrayed heroes escaping a hedonistic pleasure dome masquerading as a utopia.
We must be outside.
Fast forward to the 90s when films like Dark City, The 13th Floor, and The Matrix depicted deceptions that went beyond lies, featuring mechanisms that directly manipulated the senses to obscure access to reality. In most of these, our hero's insatiable thirst for truth exposes the deception and delivers them to salvation, or at least a higher state of awareness. Let's call this the cinema of demystification. While all these films are compelling in their own way, there's one that, perhaps unexpectedly, provides an entirely unique insight on the genre: The Truman Show.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
What's so intriguing here is that the artificial reality is the same as the medium through which the narrative is told: audio-visual storytelling. The Truman Show, the reality show starring Truman Burbank, an audio-visual story, is exposed as false through The Truman Show the movie starring Jim Carrey, also an audio-visual story. And it's this narrative constellation that not only reveals how false realities can confound us, but also how stories about revealing false realities can confound us. That even tales of exposing fabricated worlds may ultimately just present another layer of manufactured meaning. Let's dive in. The Truman Show follows Truman Burbank, an insurance salesman who's oblivious that his entire life has been a meticulously staged reality show. His friends, family, and coworkers are all actors, and his idyllic hometown Sea Haven is an elaborate set enclosed within a giant state-of-the-art dome. When a love interest gets taken away for trying to reveal the truth about his life, the seams of the illusion start to show, and Truman begins to question his reality. Driven by a desire for love and truth, Truman ventures to the edge of the dome where he finds the exit, takes a bow, and enters the real world. The end. So, the world outside the dome is real, and the world inside is fake. But a more accurate description of Sea Haven would be that it's hyperreal.
Sea Haven is the way the world should be.
In his influential essay, Travels in Hyperreality, philosopher and cultural critic Umberto Eco describes his pilgrimage through America, studying what he calls the industry of the absolute fake, or places that don't just try to reproduce reality, but improve it. Think destinations like celebrity wax museums, the Rainforest Cafe, or what he calls America's Sistine Chapel, Disneyland. In Disneyland, everything is brighter, larger, and more captivating than everyday life. In comparison to Disney, he says, reality can be disappointing. For example, you can go on the Disney Jungle Cruise and see a bunch of fake alligators up close, swimming, chomping away, bellowing, etc. But if you travel to the actual Mississippi River, maybe you'll see one gator, but chances are it'll be sleeping or just chilling real hard. We'll actually feel homesick for Disneyland, which offers us more reality than the real thing ever could. This, for Eco, is hyperreality. Same thing with the reproductions of famous cities. If you go to New Orleans Square in Disneyland, you'll witness the unique architecture, taste the delicious food, and hear jazz and blues played by friendly, salaried staff. If you go to the real New Orleans, it will be disgustingly humid, you'll get eaten alive by mosquitoes, and any attempt to appreciate street music will inevitably be interrupted by people promoting bus tours and other tourist traps. Eco argued that hyperreality can make us nostalgic for its very fakeness. It's simply more satisfying and comfortable than the unpredictability of the real world. Sea Haven is one such absolute fake, a flattened, hyperreal rendition of American life in the 50s and 60s, saturated with small-town charm, traditional family values, and social conformity. It's the non-reality that some are nostalgic for. Christof, the show's boomer director, likely grew up on shows like Leave It to Beaver and The Dick Van Dyke Show, and sought to replicate that wholesome vision of America that never really existed. Like the kid who goes to the Mississippi River and gets homesick for the Disney Jungle Cruise, Christof probably grew up in small-town America, which was far from perfect, and is nostalgic for the idealized version he remembers from TV. real life was a pale imitation compared to Leave It to Beaver, and so he recreated the better version.
Sea Haven is the way the world should be.
The characters, too, are hyper-real stereotypes. Truman's wife Meryl is always perky, always shopping, always fit, and you can bet dinner's always ready on time.
I made macaroni.
I'm not hungry.
His best friend Marlon always has a six-pack in hand, always has his back, and magically appears whenever Truman's feeling vulnerable. Even Truman's boss rides him like the quintessential upper management blowhard.
You're gonna lose a lot more than your teeth if you don't meet your quota.
The movie then critiques the allure of the hyperreal. Though there may be a seductive quality to a life cleansed of inconvenience and unpredictability, true liberation lies in facing reality. Right? Well, that's definitely the message we're supposed to take. But we should ask ourselves, how is the truth represented in the movie, and why does it feel more real? In his essay, Eco recounts seeing life-size wax renditions of The Last Supper in various California museums, some cringier than others. He claims that in every instance there was a picture of the original next to the sculptures. Now, you would think it would be a photo of the original Da Vinci painting, but no. Instead, it was a less detailed wooden replica. The wax figures may not be perfect, but compared to the rougher wooden version, they suddenly seem a whole lot more authentic. That's one of the tricks of the absolute fake. It positions itself as realer by offering up something crappier for comparison. The Truman Show does the same thing. The hyper-real, naive 50s aesthetic with its manicured lawns and aggressively cheerful neighbors is like the shoddy wooden Last Supper. Whereas the world outside Sea Haven, the real world, is full of people and settings that are much messier and thus much more real by comparison. We see two frazzled waitresses making ends meet in the big city, a definitely single middle-aged dude spending hours in the tub, security guards with much more precarious careers than the white-collar ones in Sea Haven, and two old ladies sitting next to each other. Are they in a nursing home? Where are their families? Do they have families? Definitely not the traditional family structure we see in Sea Haven. Just like the wax figures compared to the crappy wooden ones, these slices of messy everyday life seem more authentic compared to the manufactured bliss of Sea Haven. Here's the thing though, back in 1998, two frazzled waitresses scraping by seemed relatively novel. But today, we have two broke girls. A middle-aged guy solo dolo instead of fathering a family? Not something you'd see on TV in the 50s, but nowadays we have Better Call Saul. Watching the movie 25 years later makes you realize there's nothing more real about these messier figures. The film inadvertently reveals that there's no such thing as a purely real depiction. It's all about which tropes feel less tired at a given moment. Even inside the show, we see old, tired tropes representing the fake machinations of the producers, and newer tropes representing authentic actions outside the scripted reality. For example, the way Truman meets his wife is a sterile, lifeless encounter that would definitely please 50s TV censors. A cheerleader, unconvincingly, falls over a boy in the marching band, realizes he's super cute OMG, and they fall in love. Compared to the late 90s when TV had horny teenagers on the reg, this seems quaint and false. But then there's Lauren, Truman's real love interest, who tries to free him from the dome. When he sees her, it's catching eyes across the setting, the kind of thing you'd see in a gazillion music videos of the era. There's real desire here, much more resonant with the dominant media narratives of the time, which allows it to be interpreted as realer than the tired trip over boy meet cute. Or think about when Truman reunites with his dad, who he thought died at sea. The actor was overridden with guilt and infiltrated the set years later, forcing Christof to quickly think of a way to quell Truman's curiosity. His solution is the hackiest and most overused soap opera plot device:
Amnesia.
Brilliant.
Days of Our Lives, Dallas, General Hospital, Santa Barbara, and Another World all had amnesia plot lines in the 70s and 80s. Again, the tired cliche codes it as artificial, but watching the film 25 years later, when newer tropes feel just as contrived, the passionate rebel, the journey of relentless self-discovery, it becomes evident that the movie doesn't just reveal the hyper-reality of media, but the ever-shifting nature of the absolute fake. The point is, The Truman Show, perhaps inadvertently, disguises its own central paradox. While it claims to expose false realities, it simultaneously replaces those realities with new illusions. We see how the tropes, values, and narratives that built Truman's hyperreal prison have lost their grip on us, only to be replaced by equally constructed codes of realness and authenticity.
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
You could say this is an example of philosophers Deleuze and Guattari's concept of deterritorialization and reterritorialization. Deterritorialization refers to the disruption or dismantling of established structures, systems, or cultural codes, and reterritorialization is the process of reestablishing or reinforcing these systems and codes. Importantly, this process often just reestablishes the same or similar power dynamics. A famous example is Cortez conquering the Aztecs. The Spanish deterritorialized by forbidding the symbols and rituals that characterize the Aztec beliefs, then reterritorialized by establishing their own beliefs and rituals. Similarly, The Truman Show dismantles the wholesome 50s facade of Sea Haven, only to reterritorialize the narrative with then-contemporary tropes of rebelliousness, passionate romance, and individual self-discovery. This process seduces us into believing we've achieved a greater truth, when in reality we've simply been repackaged a new flavor of absolute fake. The film's ultimate absolute fake lies in its core message, a message baked into every installment of the cinema of demystification, that the will to pursue truth, love, and authenticity will break us free from manipulation and illusion. Just as New Orleans Square promises a more pleasant experience than the real New Orleans, this narrative of liberation promises a clear-cut, satisfying distinction between the real and the unreal. But the reality is, truth-seeking is messy, disorienting, and often involves endless cycles of disillusionment and confusion. Some philosophers, like Slavoj Žižek, even argue that fully escaping the influence of ideology and constructed realities is almost impossible. Of course, now I'm going to talk about The Matrix because 1, I can't help myself, and 2, I think creators Lana and Lily Wachowski deeply struggled with this idea. The first film is probably the most famous and revered in the cinema of demystification, offering a clear divide between real and unreal. The Matrix is the fake digital world, and the real world is, well, the real world. Jean Baudrillard, a source of inspiration for the Wachowskis, famously hated the film, saying it's the kind of movie The Matrix would make about itself, reflecting on how even a film about breaking free from illusion, like The Truman Show, inevitably perpetuates its own layers of mystification. I believe Lana and Lily took this very seriously and tried to address it in the sequels. So in Reloaded and Revolutions, this division between real and unreal gets blurred. Neo has powers in the real world, there's a world between the digital and the real world, there's an unexplained gold world that Neo is tapped into. Oh, and turns out that Zion is just a variable in the equation that helps the greater oppressive system of the Matrix perpetuate itself. The sequels grapple with the impossibility of a pure escape and instead rely on mystical and religious symbols to vaguely suggest a transcendent salvation beyond depiction. Then, by the fourth film, Lana feels defeated. Even a film warning about the dangers of constructed realities remains bound within the very system that creates them. So she feels frustrated about it for the first half of the film through Thomas Anderson, the stuck-in-the-system game designer, then reluctantly perpetuates the very cycle of illusion for the second half, cause hey, I guess a girl's gotta make a living, and maybe a cry for help is therapeutic. But I suppose that's okay, because according to Echo, the pleasure of imitation is one of the most innate to the human spirit, so we're pretty content with fakes. In his words, Disneyland not only produces illusion, but in confessing it, stimulates the desire for it. Similarly, cinema of demystification offers a tantalizing simulation of disillusionment. Life is confusing, deception is everywhere, and the promise of a satisfying resolution for our efforts to be less confused is highly appealing to our psyche, and that's what these films offer. That's why The Truman Show is the most honest of all these movies, except for maybe The Matrix 4. After witnessing Truman's dramatic triumph over manufactured reality, the movie presents a reflection of us in the form of the security guards, who simply shrug it off.
What else is on?
Yeah, let's see what else.
Where's the TV guy?
Echo says the appeal of the absolute fake is the offspring of the unhappy awareness of a present without depth. And so, while these movies may speak to our urge for authenticity, our inability to point anywhere makes us, like the security guards, just blankly search for the next illusion. And before I go, this is not meant to be a miserablest Frankfurt School moralization about these movies. These movies freaking rip, and they provide illusions not because they're the extension of an evil cabal of controlling elites who want to obscure their dominance, but because our social reality is impossibly complex, and entertainment is there to soothe us. But, like I said in my video about The Mask, it's okay to let ourselves be benevolently fooled by beautiful lies, so long as we eventually, or at least periodically, get back to reality, whatever that may be. Hey, thanks for watching, guys. If you want to support the channel and help it continue, don't forget to check out my Ko-fi page where you can donate, subscribe to the channel, and ring that bell so you can get notified when new videos drop. Don't forget to check out the Discord, follow me on Twitch, check me out on Letterboxd. All those links are in the description. Hope you guys have a great summer, and take it easy, y'all. Peace.